Hey guys, my name's Jamie, and I'd like to give you 5 tips I have for you to use Firebase effectively. Tip number 1. Make sure you set up billing alerts in your account. This is to make sure you don't get overcharged for things like if you accidentally write an infinite loop, or maybe your users are using your app more than you intended, or maybe you have a cloud function going haywire. Make sure you set up billing alerts in your account. In order to do this, go to your project in the Firebase console. Now, in the bottom left of your project, if it says you're on the Spark plan, then you're not going to see these options. If you're on the Spark plan, you're probably fine. You're not going to be charged anyway because your billing account isn't hooked up to the project. But if you're on any other plan other than the Spark plan, then go up here and click on this gear icon, and then click on billing. And then you'll just want to set up a budget right here. You'll click on the create budget, and then you'll be able to configure things like what billing account the budget is for, as well as what the budget amount is, and then alerts for any amounts. I have a bunch of alerts here. I have one for $10, $20, $50, $90, $100, and I have all these set up because I'm not expecting the amount of traffic, which you would need a lot of traffic in order to bust past those free limits. And so I've set up some very tight budget here because I'm not expecting to break those limits anytime soon. So I recommend setting a budget for whatever you're planning on, and then if it exceeds that, then you'll get a notification. And like it says up here, it'll send an email alert to billing admins, and then it has additional options for configuring notifications for other users as well. But yeah, guys, make sure you set up your own billing budgets so you're not surprised by any charges. So that is my tip number 1. Now let's move on to tip number 2. And tip number 2 I have for you guys is you want to back up your data if you're using Firestore or if you're using real-time database. So either of the databases hosted by Firebase, you want to back up that data because they don't provide you currently a way to do that. And the way I like to do that is using this package right here called Firestore Backup Restore. So this is of course only for Firestore. I'm not sure if there is one for the real-time database, but for Firestore I really like this package. So basically you just install it, and I can do a full video on this in the future, how to set up automatic backups if you'd like. But just as a general tip, I would install this and then get this setting up automatic backups for your project. Again, let me know down in the comments if you want a full video on that. But that is my tip number 2. Just make sure you have backups of your data, because if you lose it, it's really not coming back. So I recommend having a backup restore system set up, especially if you have a lot of production users, a lot of people using your app, or you plan to. I would definitely recommend setting that up. You always want to have a fail-safe, something to fall back on. If something goes wrong, you accidentally delete some data, which can happen all the time. Alright, and my next tip for you guys, tip number 3, is to use different projects for alpha and production. And what I mean by that is you want to separate the data that's like for your testing data when you're developing the project versus your production data, like when the users, live users are actually using your app. You want to keep those separate because oftentimes in development you'll actually screw something up, like you'll accidentally run a wrong command. You're developing stuff, you're testing stuff, so you always want to separate them as much as possible. So what I like to do is create a separate project here. So I have a project JamieBot Alpha, and this is for the JamieBot website, jamiebot.com, and all of my testing data is on this Firebase application right here. Okay, so it's its own Firebase project. And then I have a completely separate project called JamieBot, and that's my production database. And so I like to keep those completely separate, keep all the data safe on each end. And if you want a specific video about how to configure that, I have a video on Angular on alpha and production, so you should check that out if you don't have alpha and production set up for your Angular app. I don't really use any other frameworks other than Angular and Ionic, and I use Angular with Ionic, so if you want a video for alpha and production on a different platform, you'll have to look somewhere else. I only use Angular. But I definitely recommend you do set it up no matter what framework you are using. Alright, and that is tip number 3. Definitely use alpha and production if you have live production users. You'd want to keep them safe. Alright, now tip number 4 I have for you guys is you want to use cloud functions in order to increase the security of your app. So if your app is doing anything like payments or any sort of operation which you don't want the users to be fiddling with, like technically they could fiddle with it on the front end, you want to abstract that logic and put it on the Firebase cloud functions. Let me know if you want a full video on how to do payments in Firebase, and then I can look at doing that in the future. But for now, I just want to give you the tip that if you're doing any sort of payments or highly sensitive data processing, you want to do that on the back end so that users cannot tamper with those operations on the front end and thus avoid the security of your app. So you definitely want to make sure you use Firebase Cloud Functions if you're doing any sort of highly sensitive data processing. Alright, and then tip number 5 I have for you guys is you can use Firebase storage in order to upload images and get an actual download link. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll upload a file here, and then I'll just go and choose one of my video thumbnails right here. So I'll choose this one, and when it uploads it, you can click on the image and then click on file location, and then here it'll give us the download URL. So now I can distribute this URL anywhere and people will be able to view this image. So this is the URL right here. I just copied it to the clipboard, and if I hit enter, you can see this image is now hosted on the web. I can give anyone a link to this image and they can view it anywhere. So this is a great way for your application if you just need like a reference, a link to an image on the internet that you can link to people. This is a great way to do it. Alright you guys, and those are my 5 tips for really getting the most out of Firebase. So hopefully you enjoyed those. Leave a like if you did, and also subscribe for more videos like this if you're interested. And thanks for watching you guys. Leave a comment down below if you want to see any of these concepts more in depth, and I'll see you guys in the next video.